Good afternoon and welcome to Tool Time. I'm Rob Norman.
And I'm Tilly Brooke.
We're part of the Clinical Hub team here at Sunrise. So today we're just going to run through with some tool time for you to give us hints and tips as we go through the whole day for you, well, the 3-hour session. We've got a few breaks throughout the session for plenty of questions to be asked, so don't be scared to ask a few questions. Anything that's confusing, give us a shout. We'll try and make this as interactive as we possibly can.
Yeah, and the more questions you guys can shoot our way, the more you're going to get out of today. Who you can't see behind the scenes at the moment is Tom, our marketing guru. He's going to be managing questions and helping out throughout the session too. So yeah, the only silly question is the question that you don't ask. So fire away.
So the main objectives we're going to go through today is understanding the tool, your tool bag. So what really some hints and tips on what we believe works for ourselves. It's very different. It may not be the same for everybody. And then moving on from there, postural positioning, on knowing how to use the foams and different products. There may be just products in your car boot that you're not sure about as well. And for any equipment suppliers on here as well, knowing why they're in place and what they're there for as well. So just to prove the function rather than they've just been randomly placed. Then we're going to go through some manual wheelchair adjustments, power wheelchair adjustments, and lecky adjustments to finish off.
And guys, on your screen, the way you can really make today work for you is use the grey bar. So we're going to be flipping between slides and also video. So use your bar so that you can make the video big at times, and then your slides as well. So we'll leave that for you to manage on your side of things while we manage our camera skills.
Yeah, we'll try anyway.
Okay.
So straight to it, we've got a few different options. So with tools, it's very much a personal preference, as well as some relate to the actual job. With a lot of people ask difference between imperial and metric. We've gone to the black and white terms in this way, or color terms. Our red ones are imperial, blue ones are metric. Metric will be most commonly used now. It has gone to the times where it was predominantly imperial. Everybody's moving across. So the likes of Sunrise here, Whitmire is still imperial. A few of the older quickie products, but a lot of the new power and the quickie manuals are all metric now. So the likes of the Medifabs, of the metric, the Dreamlines, and all those products, they are all metric. You've got your key, which is metric and imperial on the Razes. So all very much product specific, but with ours today, we're talking about just a few imperial and majority metric. So as it comes to, you've got Allen keys on these options, or you can go to T-bar. The advantages between the actual Allen key head is if you want that little bit more leverage, then you can, with that position, it's just going to give you that little bit more actual force behind it when they're that bit tighter. The T-bar is for convenience. It is a little bit easier for some of those angles where you've got the ball tip on. Just be aware the ball tips sometimes, if it's the wrong size, so make sure it's a true fit, it can round off the screw as well. So you've got to be careful that the tip of the head will actually round off. So just to be aware of that one.
And, you know, if you're not sure if it's imperial or metric, pop the Allen key that you think it is. And if there's a tiny bit of give, try the other one. Yeah. Because it's just a tiny bit of give that is whether it's the correct one or not. So if in doubt, always double check. Because you don't want to ruin the bolt or you don't want to ruin the Allen key.
Yeah, with that, if it is that little bit of play, then you'll have the actual. If it's a little bit of play, then you'd have over time. You'll get away with it for once, but after that second time, then it might be a problem. And then we've got different types of spanners as well.
All right, guys, we're just sorting out
sorting out technical issues. So we'll go through the actual spanners as well. So you've got the traditional spanner, and then you've got your ratchet spanner. Always remember lefty loosey, righty tighty. Just that tip that some people remember, some people fail. And I know ourselves and Tilly, we always mention, yeah, it's the opposite way to what we're doing, and just keeping tight and everything like that. So, and then for other people that might not prefer the spanner, then you can go for a wrench. So you've got that socket set to just giving you that individual socket as well.
I think the key thing is, as therapists, you just want a toolkit that has, your main tools. So don't be afraid to, go to the tool section of any hardware store and have a look as to what you like, what you think is going to be practical. If you're not sure, just purchase one of each type to begin with, and work out what suits the way you work and build your kit from there.
Yeah. So here at Sunrise, obviously we do the Lecky brand. You get the Lecky toolkit with every Lecky product. You get one of these. They've got flaws as well because they are small. You are going to lose leverage, and you are going for those little bit smaller products. And when we're talking in headrests, you'll see that sometimes you do need that little bit much even shorter than this. So you just got to be aware of what options you've got is what we needed. Then we've got the shifter. So if in doubt, you can use a shifter if it's that size that you don't need. So just try to see if you can see the size. Yep. So you can just see you've got those different options to get the sizes required. We carry it just purely, we've got a knife, so it's in its safety pack at the moment. So it just gives that option for like cutting Velcro or some foams.
Cable ties.
Yeah, just giving that all round safety, but obviously be careful around clients depending on what environments you're going to. Obviously sometimes might have to stay in the car boot. And then our trusty favorite, the persuader. It just helps that little bit of time just to get you out of trouble. And last but not
on that, the hammer in your toolkit, please don't have a metal hammer. Okay, you want a mallet, a rubber, or this one. I got this one because it's the lightest weight one, and I always try and reduce what I'm carrying. This is a plastic mallet, soft plastic. So when you're hitting things, you never want to go metal on metal, because that's when you're potentially going to, ding the frame of the chair or whatever you're doing. You always want to go rubber or plastic on metal. So when you're buying your mallet, don't get a cheap metal one, please.
And then last but not least, we've all got iPhones or Samsung or a mobile phone of some type. With the iPhone, you can obviously have the measure app, so then you can then literally pick your angle. So you can really find when you're doing that matter valley, if you're on your own and you just need that additional support, or if you're squaring a caster, as you'll see in a bit, you can really get that, find exactly what works for you.
So this is our team. We're spread all around Australia. So don't hesitate to reach out to any of us if you need any assistance, or if you want to pick our brains around how to make adjustments, clinical application of anything we're doing today. You can reach us generically at clinical@sunrise.com.au, or we all have independent emails too. So don't ever hesitate to reach out.
The main thing about the team is we're very different. So we go from OT to physio to myself, product specialist. You've got Scott, rehab engineer. So we've got that real difference of opinion. So it's just that third opinion sometimes always helps.
Yeah.
So,
and if one of us can't find a solve, there's someone in our team who generally can, who's been in that situation before, and can give you, where a problem's been able to be solved in those kind of, when you're looking for those out of the box solutions as well. All right, so we're going to break today's session into 4 areas. So we're going to start with seating, and the reason we're doing this is when you're doing an evaluation, you always want to really start with your seating and work your way out. And I think, you know, whether it's Sunrise products or someone else's products, you can make quite a few adjustments to seating, both in the field and time of script. So we're going to run through some of those things today. So very briefly, when we're talking about cushions, there's lots of different types, but generally speaking, you can have a foam-based cushion, which is one of our foam cushions that I love is our J Iron cushion. What's really great when you're thinking about a foam cushion is what are the layers of foam involved? Is there ischial shelf? You know, we really support the GTs on the iron as well. The J concept is we want to load up your GTs and your legs and offload the ITs, okay? So on a basic cushion like the iron that's providing you, you know, a min to mod level of pressure relief and a kind of minimal to low moderate positioning, this cushion, you know, is as scripted, okay? Provides a great level of support, but for someone who has, say, obliquity and rotation and significant anterior or posterior pelvic tilt, this might be something you're not going to consider for them. The iron cushion's really for someone who's sitting a few hours at a time. They might have a little posterior pelvic tilt that's just easily correctable. This is a really great, no frill, easy to use cushion for them. For the next person up who needs, you know, a moderate level of pressure relief and a moderate level of positioning, you've got the Union, which is a maintenance-free fluid cushion. So in the Union, thanks Rob, in the well here, we have the fluid encapsulated, okay? So what I love about this cushion, this is my favorite cushion of all time, it's my set and forget, okay? So in the well here, we have half of a X2 bladder, okay? So you get heaps and heaps of immersion, you've got a significant ischial shelf, plenty of offloading of the GTs, okay? But you can really only modify this cushion at time of order. So in terms of managing obliquity and more of those rotation that you might want to do in the field, when you take apart your cushion and you see something like the Union, in terms of those changes you can make at the time, you know, you have to get crafty about perhaps what you can do at the seat pan. Can you wedge it there and that sort of thing. So really just good to, if you're not sure what you're looking at, okay, undo the zips, have a look. You know, is all the foam glued? What sort of foam is it? Okay, is it an open cell foam like this Union? Yes, you're gonna, you know, compared to closed cell foam, which is easier to take the knife to and that sort of thing, than an open cell foam. So really get comfortable. Unzip cushions when you're doing trials. Have a look, feel the foam, feel the fluid, feel the air. Really get to know what your client's sitting with. Okay. So this is what I call a maintenance-free fluid cushion.
And we're stood here today. Don't forget, we know we're in a lucky position that all these products we're showing you today are new or very new. That obviously the ones that you're going to see out in the field may not be that case. That they're all nice and shiny and clean. But we have the flip side. We like to see them used, so we know they're actually getting used for and getting people independent and out and about. So.
And of course, from my experience, when you're taking a cushion apart that's been in the field for a long time, have your gloves on, okay? Then we come into the cushions where you're really going to be able to play and make lots of changes in the field, okay? So at time of trial and after the fact. So, you know, if you have a client with a condition that's fluid, you know, they might be declining or they might have times of where they need less or more postural stability. Cushions with fluid positioning pieces or air is where kind of you want to be looking, okay? So you don't always have to look at, you know, they have this cushion for good times and this other cushion for times of high fatigue and that sort of thing. You can really look at cushions that do it all, okay? So we're going to really work with 3 cushions that Rob's pulled out and show you how to get the most out of them. And these concepts you can take across a variety of manufacturers' products, okay? Because we really are focusing on concepts today. Okay, so the cushions we're going to be playing with, so you're aware, is the J Fusion with fluid and positioning pieces, the JGS, which is our growth system cushion, and the good old J2 cushion. Okay, it's been around for eons, but it's a really great solid cushion that you can do plenty with. Okay, so really want to talk about clinically managing obliquity first. And obliquity is my happy place. So when I assess someone and that sort of thing, I really like to target obliquity first, because it's also something you can manage with a simple piece of equipment, and it removes a hand and allows you to use your hand as assessment tools and pieces of equipment at different times. So reason why I love to start with obliquity first is it's quite easy to manage. Okay, so obliquity, simply put, it's where an ASIS sits higher than the other. Okay, so you're gonna have to, my fists are gonna be my ASIS. Okay, so neutral pelvis, they're level, obliquity, one is higher than the other, and as you can see from the picture, the pressure is really going to be going through that lower IT. Okay, and when you're looking at someone's pelvis, it's either reducible, which means we can move it around and we can potentially get it in a neutral position, or it's non-reducible, which means those ASIS, you're not going to be able to move them. Okay, so let's work with someone who's in a left lower obliquity, which is reducible. Okay, so I know from my mat assessment that I can really get those ASIS neutral. Okay, Rob. Thank you very much. So there's a couple of ways we can do that. Okay, I would encourage you all to have a bit of a seating kit in the back of your car or in the bottom of your therapy bag. Okay, anytime you do a trial or a delivery and there are spare bits of foam, okay, collect them, because they're really, really useful assessment tools and ways to really find out, if I manage this obliquity by building up this side of the cushion, is that going to have a positive effect? Okay, and by having that, you don't need to call out your preferred rep or dealer. Okay, you know that by building up an inch on the left side or the right side, that's able to get that pelvis in a neutral position. So you can call your dealer and say, this is exactly what I need. Okay, I need a J Fusion and I want to, and a J Fluid supplement pad, which looks like this, or a 1/2 inch piece of foam.
And it can be even to the point of like tea towels at home, just using that bit, fold it in half, fold it in 4 and do that. Or a lot of people, a majority of people nowadays with COVID and everything, is shopping at Amazon. You get some great packing materials from Amazon. Yeah, they work as well. It's just this is to let the dealer know, I need these obliques. So it doesn't have to be the actual ones from ourselves. Other manufacturers do them as well. So just gather. You end up becoming an OT and a dealer as myself, you'd literally end up with your van just full of foam and bits just in case to get you out of trouble. And it's, you gather that little, your go-to kits, and then once you can get rid of the other stuff, but as soon as you get rid of that stuff is the time you need it. So.
I was going to say, the times you always clean out your therapy bag and go, I've never used that piece of foam, I promise you'll need it for an assessment or a facilitation of posture in the next day. So always hold on to those extra couple of bits of foam. All right, I'm going to get Rob to come on camera. This is why we just, all right. So this is, I'm going to take the cover off. This is our J Fusion cushion with positioning, and I want to show you why the concept for obliquity build-up using this cushion. So the way you're going to do this is use any cushion with a really nice well, okay? So this part of the cushion here is the ischial shelf. So this is the back, this is the front, okay? And this is our well with a really nice ischial shelf that's going to help minimize posterior pelvic tilt, okay? So obliquity, okay? Say We have a reducible pelvis, okay? So I'm going to build it up. If it's reducible, I'm going to build up on the low side, okay? Which means we're going to bring that pelvis into a neutral position. If your pelvis was non-reducible, however, we're going to build up on this high side to disperse the pressure. And that's why it's really important to spend the time assessing your client, okay? So let's say this is our reducible pelvis, and I'm going to build it up on this side. When I was doing my mat assessment, I worked out that it was approximately 1 thumb thickness in difference. So I'm going to start with a simple 1/2 inch piece of foam. I'm going to pop that under there, okay? And then I'd pop my cover back on top and my fluid bladder on top. So now this left side is approximately 1/2 inch higher than my right side. Say I discovered that obliquity is approximately 1 inch. So for me, it's about 1.5 thumbs. I could take 2 pieces of foam, put them on top of each other, build it up, put my inner cover back on, and then my fluid bladder on top. Okay, so this left side is significantly higher now than my right side. Okay, and again, as Rob said, use what you've got. If you want to try this at someone's house and you don't have anything, I bet they have a face washer. Fold it up, work out approximately how much it is. Okay, put some paper in there. Whatever you've got, they're still going to be immersing in the fluid, so they've got good pressure relief, and you're using it just for assessment purposes. Okay. The other tool that works really well. Okay, so when you script any of our fluid cushions, you can ask for a 10%, 20%, 30%, or even 40% overfill in fluid. Okay, but often, you know, when you're scripting that first cushion, it's, well, I don't know, what does 10% actually equal? Is it 1 thumb, 2 thumb? You know, functionally, however you measure, you want to relate that back. Okay, these fluid supplement pads work really, really well to give both you and the client an idea for how much overfill or maybe underfill you need. Okay, so your dealers can have these. So this is kind of step 2. Once you've called the dealer, you've worked out what you need. Hey, can we trial a Fusion or a J2 or a JGS? Can you also bring a fluid supplement pad? Okay, so what we do is, if using a fluid supplement pad, you don't want to lie it flat, okay, because it kind of loses the amount of volume you're going to get. Okay, we want to scrunch it up and pop it on the side. Thanks, Rob. Okay, we want to pop it on the side here. Then our fluid pad goes on top. Okay, and really, this is a good 2 inches higher now. Okay, so that's going to stay in place. If you want to use a fluid pad for the entire life of the cushion, you can. It's got really great Velcro on it. Velcros into place and doesn't move. Okay. Try not to fold it over and put it in place, because then the fluid's kind of at capacity and there's no movement in there. So you don't want the person ever sitting on fluid. You want them in it. You want them immersed into that marshmallow. Okay. These also work really well, and I know I'm jumping ahead in slides, but we'll come to the theory in a minute, in rotation, okay? So if you've got one side of the pelvis more forward than the other and you want to bring it back, we need to give it some anterior force. I'm going to grab one of these, scrunch it up, and put it at the front of that ischial shelf, okay? And that's going to help provide that anterior force to encourage that pelvis to come back into place. Same on the J2, okay? The J2 is our ultimate positioning and pressure cushion, okay? It's got a really big well. I'm going to do exactly the same theory here. Take my fluid bladder, scrunch it up, pop it on the side, okay? And then put, thanks Rob, my fluid bladder back on top, okay? You can also use pieces of foam, whatever you need. Sorry guys, it's black on black, to build them up as well. All right, so again, use what you've got, okay? just get creative and really take these theories and have a go about changing someone's posture. Because if someone's got even the mildest obliquity, if you can, if that's flexible and you can really get them in a neutral position, you're going to, in 10 years' time, be so thankful, and so the client will be also. So tear apart those cushions and have a look as to how you can really assist clients with their obliquity just by a simple piece of foam, okay?
With a lot, just going through on this part, just for demonstration part as well, with a lot of our cushions, they come with two covers. If you're doing it at trial and you really are worrying about the positioning, then obviously just put the one cover back on so you can add the wedges into place. There is no right and wrong, or you can put a pad on top of it as well, depending on the client scenario. So don't think you've got to cover it all back up. If you're not quite sure, you can add two at all times as well.
Definitely. Thanks, Rob. Okay, posterior pelvic tilt. Okay, you really, really want to consider a cushion that has a really nice ischial shelf. Okay, or well, different people use different terms, but essentially, posterior pelvic tilt. I want everyone out there who's sitting on your chair going to posterior pelvic tilt. I'm going to know if you're not doing it. Okay, so in that really slouchy position, okay, all the teenagers sitting at their computers, and we do it too, right? And I bet half of you have just sat up really nice and tall.
End of the day on the lounge, when you're falling out, it's not done.
Okay, so posterior pelvic tilt is really where we go into that relaxed position. Okay, we're going to have pressure building up on our tailbone there, and most importantly, our ITs are at risk. Okay, they're really going to be hitting things. That's what we want to avoid. We want to keep someone in a really nice neutral position if we're able to. Okay, so this is where you really have a think about the ischial shelf. How big does that ischial shelf need to be? Okay, what's the material that ischial shelf's made out of as well? Okay, anterior force doesn't always have to be the belt. In fact, I really encourage you to think about anterior force coming from the ischial shelf in the cushion before you use a belt. Okay, in this day and age, when we're working with people in care homes and nursing homes, we quite often get asked the question, well, is that a restraint or is it an enabler? Okay, but first and foremost, try using the ischial shelf for postural management. In some cushions, you are able to really play around with that well and ischial shelf. Okay, example in the fusion, we can't carve it out, but at time of script, you can request this well to be moved forward. Okay, the one cushion we really can play around with is our growth cushion here, our JGS. Okay, so we can reduce the well or make it bigger as our little kiddo grows. Okay, and there are lots of products out there that you can do this with too. Okay, so this is what a well reducer looks like, and it really just helps manage your pelvic position, especially in regards to posterior pelvic tilt and a neutral position. Okay. With posterior pelvic tilt, often has associated kyphosis. Okay, similar as anterior pelvic tilt, often has associated lordosis. So if you're seeing one of these presentations, lordosis and kyphosis are quite often easy to spot when you're just eyeballing a client. So if I see a client who's sitting there with kyphosis, my little old lady with low tone, or my MND, or my post-stroke, really, so many people present with posterior pelvic tilt, but the first thing you see is kyphosis. So if they're kyphotic, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have posterior pelvic tilt. So we need to look at addressing all aspects of the pelvis and also the spine. So hold on to those thoughts, and we're going to come back to not just using the ischial shelf of the cushion, but changes you can make really easily to backrests. Okay, so that we're looking at the client as a whole, not just one segment of the pelvis. Okay, so the way we do that, okay, is everybody, we're playing a game again. Find your ASIS, which are those bony landmarks here. And then we follow it round. And if you've got dimples in the back, that's a really nice place to find your PSIS. Or you've got the flat bit of your pelvis, and then your PSIS is just medially placed to that flat bit of your pelvis. We're going to really focus on that PSIS to take that pelvis from being into posterior pelvic tilt into a neutral position. Okay, so be sitting on your chair and really go into anterior pelvic tilt, posterior pelvic tilt, because that gives you a really nice idea of where we need the posterior force. Okay, so the only thing I really remember from physics is every force needs an equal and opposite. Okay, so if someone's in posterior pelvic tilt, I've got my anterior force at my ischial shelf. Okay, but then we also need to get the PSIS. Okay, so the posterior force. And the way we do that, okay, is using whatever you've got in the backrest. So just as we're changing the well in the cushion in the backrest, we're going to get, again, we have really nice pieces of foam. I love the footballs and wedges. Thank you, Rob. Okay. Okay, these are my favorite PSIS blockers, is how I refer to them. Okay, and essentially we want to block that person's PSIS in the backrest. Don't go too low, don't go putting it, you know, on the spine. We're really getting those PSIS to encourage a nice neutral pelvis. Okay. Okay. So you're going to get your backrest. Okay, we're going to rip off the foam. Okay. And again, if you don't have particular pieces of foam, historically, I love using face washers for this. Okay, or whatever you've got lying around. You know, PSIS isn't too low. You've got to take into consideration where the backrest is positioned. We're going to block my PSIS. Put the backrest back on, put the foam back on, sorry, and away you go. And you can really see that I have some significant blocking going on. You can go as little or lots depending on what you need, okay? But really make sure you're hitting the correct part of the pelvis, okay? We want that flat area. That's where we want the pressure going. If you're really hitting that PSIS, you know, like anything, if you're hitting a bony prominence, you've got to watch for pressure. Okay, but use your backrest. I think historically we can put in so much time and effort on the cushion, then we just pop the backrest on and oh, they're great. But actually we're only giving them that anterior force to get that neutral correct. You need to add that posterior one too. Okay. We also need to look at changing the angle of the backrest for posterior pelvic tilt, which is really easy to do. So you don't want someone in posterior pelvic tilt sitting upright. You're really just going to bring them more forward in that slouchy position. Okay, we want to open up that backrest slightly too. This is really simple in the field change, which we're going to play around with backrest soon, and I'll show you. I'll come back to that and show you how to do it then. Okay, again, just like the pelvis, if this is reducible, you're going to be thinking about it a little bit differently than if it's non-reducible. Okay, if it's non-reducible, we want to prevent these postures from getting worse. Okay, so we're really going to increase that support and that hug across the pelvis and the spine. Okay, and we're going to open up that back angle a little bit more to really minimize the posterior pelvic tilt and kyphosis becoming worse. Okay, so this is where it's really important to do that mat assessment and work out, is it reducible? Is it non-reducible? And where do we need the forces to get a really nice posture? Okay, rotation, okay, is also something we see a lot at the pelvis. Okay, so again, we need an anterior force and a posterior force. Okay, so back to my cushion, I'm going to build up whichever side I want that force anteriorly. Okay, so in this case, perhaps the client's left forward. I know it's reducible. I'm going to increase that bit of fluid there to give that anterior support, okay, force rather. And then I need one more thing. Am I going to do anything more in the cushion? This is where we use the backrest again, okay? All right, so we have our fluid pad left forward rotation. Okay, so this person still has posterior pelvic tilt. I'm going to build up on this side a bit more, okay, and give that posterior force. Does that make sense? So we've got force coming this side and force coming this side. We're taking someone's pelvis and going back in that neutral position, okay. For rotation, you might also really consider a 2 or a 4-point belt as well, because it is something that's really great to encapsulate the ASIS at the correct position too, okay? But really don't forget about using your backrest and your cushion to do that. And again, you know, if you think you can improve your client's seating in the field, grab a couple of face washes and put them behind the foam, put them in the ischial shelf and just see. You'll know if you're getting a better position already, okay? And then you know, does your equipment have scope for really simple changes, or do we need to look at a new cushion and backrest for your future plans? Okay, so give it a go. I really want you to get your confidence going today to feel good about ripping off someone's front of their backrest. Have a look. Is there scope to make the changes? Same with the cushion, okay? This is in pictures, okay? At time of order, you can look at changing parts of that ischial shelf too, all right? So don't be afraid to ask. We're only half an hour in and I've already got equipment everywhere. I always say I'm not going to do that, but I do. Then we have cushions that come with lots and lots of secondary supports, okay? These can be ordered at time of script, and some of our cushions you can make the changes after. But if you want to have a play, ask your preferred rep for one of our Jade positioning boxes where we give you all of these pieces, and the best cushion to really have a play with is either the Jade GS or the J2, because you can use different size pieces. Okay, the Fusion's quite good to play with its positioning pieces as well. But really have a think about what are you trying to achieve? Okay, I'm a big believer that less is more. Okay, but positioning pieces work really well for a variety of things. Okay, let's start at the front. Okay, we have lateral thigh supports. Okay, might consider using these for someone in a windswept position or someone who's abducted and they just need a little bit of a coaxing to come back into more of a midline position. Okay, you have a medial thigh support. Historically, this is known as a pommel or an abductor. Okay, this is for someone who's femurs perhaps coming into internal rotation, they're really coming together, their knees are coming together, and you want to give that some gentle support to encourage a neutral position. Okay, these come in all different shapes and sizes and heights. Okay, and again, if you want to see if it works and someone's cushion doesn't allow you to do this, grab a face wash and grab some foam and just slide it into the inner cover of their cushion. Have a play. Okay, because that's going to give you more of an idea of what to ask your dealer to bring out and trial. You can confidently say, I would like a cushion with X or Y. Okay, then we have all of the same things back at the thigh. Okay, so we have our thigh or hip adductors. Okay, these are excellent to use and put in place when you're managing scoliosis, and we'll come to that in a minute. But just remember that all of these pieces are generally really strong, high strength Velcro, okay? So you need to use your muscles, give it a go, rip them off, try different sizes. And remember that after trial, you can order smaller sizes, or this is why you have your knife, okay? Closed cell foam, you can just cut through that. It's not easy to do. You'll need to use some pretty good strength, but you can cut through that very easily. Okay, so don't be afraid to make some changes and give it a go. Okay. Through your assessment, if you've worked out that someone needs a left or right leg cut to manage contracture, or to manage leg length discrepancy, if you find you need bigger trough cuts, let us know. Let's order that cushion in for you after you've had a really good play. Okay, so give it a go. In the first 6 months of a cushion, in the life of the J2 only, okay, no other bases, but if you feel confident to take a knife to the J2 base, so don't go cutting through the fluid sac, okay, just the base in the first 6 months of a cushion, if you take a knife to it and you mess it up, give us a call. We will give you one new base for free, okay, first 6 months only, all right? So back yourself. No, if you're cutting into closed cell or open cell foam, please don't cut through open cell foam, just closed cell, which is that harder type of foam that you'll find on a J2 or the JGS. Okay, give it a go. Back yourself. All right, growth. Just let your confidence grow a little. Do you agree with that, Rob?
Yeah, 100%. And then you've got the leg cut troughs as well. The trough, they can all be done at point of order. So at point of order with the manufacturer, when it comes to the manufacturer, the same with a few of the other ones as well. You can do that customization. And I know some of the times it's hard to, the modifications are the one thing that we don't have in demo. A lot of the same all out there. It is going with your gut, and hopefully it works. But obviously, if you do the right amount of balance, all the things we talk about all the time, you do get that reward for it.
Pays off big time. All right, and look, we all make mistakes. If you make a mistake and you've done everything right to that point, just pick up the phone and give us a buzz. Okay. All right. So we've talked about cushions and now more into the backs. Okay. So really want you to feel good about removing the foam, blocking that PSIS, the top of that pelvis, to help someone come out of posterior pelvic tilt, okay? Blocking one side of that pelvis a little bit more to help manage rotation, okay? But then we also need to look at getting a really nice upright trunk, but more importantly, I think, is that angle, okay? So when you script it back, make sure you get the height right. Different heights do really different things. You've got shorter backrest for active wheelchair users. You know, think about whether you're below or above the scapulars to help manage tone and positioning. Or are you coming all the way up to the shoulders for someone perhaps who's in a lot of tilt and recline. So really stop and think about heights of backrest. And if you think you need to move your backrest up an inch, this is something you can do with an Allen key really, really easily. Okay. Laterals. Okay, you can have laterals that are equal, but often we're using them for offset to help manage scoliosis. Okay, and before we get playing, we'll just go very quickly into the why and where you'd place them. Okay. We'll come back to the different types of hardware. All right. So scoliosis, if someone's got a scoliosis, generally they'll have that associated obliquity too, which is why I encourage you to start there. And you can see in this picture during this assessment, they're using their hands to help stimulate that correction. And this is where I'd whip out my pieces of foam or my face washes and just pop them under that person's bottom to help start that correction. Okay, so when we're looking at scoliosis, okay, again, let's assume for argument's sake today it's correctable. We really want 3 points of control. We want it on the primary curve, okay, which is the outside curve, and then we also need one above and below that apex. Okay, and when you're doing this, really make sure you're putting time in your plan, or the carers are aware to look for signs of pressure. Okay, this is a really nice diagram. On the right hand side, you've got the apex of the curve, and then we're at above and below, and don't forget about that obliquity too. Okay. It's a really nice front view, okay, for posterior pelvic tilt and kyphosis. So you've got those anterior forces coming up under the cushion, and they're also suggesting a belt in this picture too. The bottom arrow on the left-hand side is saying, oh, don't forget about my PSIS, okay, at the back of that pelvis, and then to really encourage that extended upright trunk position too. All right, so we're going to really have a nice play as to how to do that. Might keep that slide on. All right, thanks, Rob. Okay, so we might rip off. So this is another style of backrest. Okay, so Rob has very nicely loosened one of these for us. So you can see here, we can change our lateral pad, just moving it up and down here. So this is why it's really great, just 2 Allen keys. Okay, we're going to loosen it here and here. So we're going to want, using this picture example, here at the apex.
Wrong example.
Wrong one, okay. And then, and we'll zoom in on this so that you can see it. So just bear with us. Right, thanks, Rob. So at the back, okay, this is where we can easily adjust the height of our lateral. These 2 Allen keys, don't take them all the way out, just loosen them. Okay, just gonna loosen them here. Loosen a little bit more. And then really easy to move up and down. All right, if you do take the bolt all the way out, know that a nice little piece is going to fall out the bottom that holds it together. You're just going to have to slide it back up. A little bit fiddly, don't worry, we've all done it, but you'll probably do it at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. Okay. So,
and probably the biggest thing to take home with anything you're adjusting, if you use quarter of a turn, half a turn first, and if it loosens it, and then if not, do another quarter of a turn, half a turn. Don't think you've got to keep turning it and turning it and turning it. That little bit is just all you need to give that little bit of flexion.
Definitely. Thanks, Rob. And then here and here, we can really change the angle or the amount of hug, okay, that is provided.
So this system is on teeth, so you'll be able to see exactly where you want them to teethen up. Other systems are in different ways. It's all down to what, depending on what backrest you go, depending on which system. They all hold the same principle. So it's about just understanding there's going to be points of adjustment along the lateral. to get that lateral where you want it to be.
We can move that lateral in or out, or give what I'd call more of a hug. Okay, we've got about 2 inches along here. All right, so that's a fair bit that if you really need to come in and give more of a hug, say for a little kiddo, you're building in a little bit of growth, you know, as they put on weight, you can bring that out a little bit, or as someone's needs change, you can really move that lateral in and out very simply. Say, for example, simple as winter. You know, they might wear an extra layer, but they're having a really firm lateral placement. Super, super easy to do.
And then you've got the option, if that is too far, then you can go on the internal measurement as well. So you've got an internal track, or you can mount it internal. So just get that track there, and then you're mounting it internally, just to get it even tighter, depending on if you need to be closer on that one side, then you do the other to give that a little bit more support.
Okay. So get the backrest you're looking at, take off the foam. Key things I'd be looking for is tracks on the inside and out, you know, or slots. You know, how do you move that lateral up and down? How do you move that lateral in and out? Okay. Do you need swing away lateral? Sorry guys, let's get this in the camera.
Give away.
Okay. Okay. Really easy button release to swing away that way. Okay. Really look for those points of control and change. And in regards to what Rob was saying about the teeth, they're these little lines here. Okay, super simple. But just briefly coming back to, if I was setting up this backrest to manage scoliosis, okay. All right, so we have this lateral, which is higher. Okay, could you just zoom the camera out a bit, please? Sorry, guys, we'll just get it better. Okay, so this lateral here is higher. All right, this one is lower. This is my apex, but I also need something to block down here. All right, and that's what I'm going to consider my cushion. Okay, really going to look at using that lateral hip placement in my cushion for that third point of control. Or alternatively, if that scoliosis is higher up, I'd be considering my headrest placement. Okay, so just remember try and work out where those 3 points of control are to help manage scoliosis. Right. This is a J-fit backrest. Okay, we can still block that PSIS here and here, okay, and then we can add a really nice piece of foam. To encourage that really nice extended trunk position. Okay, we can also look at protracting shoulders. Okay. Again, just use your imagination. Clinically, what does that person need? Use our spine align kit or use what you've got around you to help facilitate that really nice posture. Okay. All right. But now we need to look at how do you change an angle of the backrest? And I think this is something that by changing an angle of a backrest 5 degrees in the field can make a huge difference to your client, okay? Their comfort, their posture, their pressure, okay? So get to know your backrest. A backrest set up on an iris, so just give us 10 seconds for a room slightly and get the camera in place.
So this is just going to be the backrest shell. So any third party backrest in particular will show you how you do it via cane as we go when we go into the manual chair sections. This is still on the seating section.
Correct.
So with Jay, this is just as we're Sunrise, so we're going to be talking about Jay and product specific. We are metric on this, so we are a 10mm socket or ratchet on the back, so spanner. So we're using the 10mm, and that's on the internal adjustment. This is going to also, going to give you that angle adjustment or depth adjustment in addition as well.
So you get a good 2 inches of depth, okay, and a huge amount of angle adjustment just with your spanner.
And in addition, you can do rotation because you can drop one side back and one side forward. So you can literally, if you can see now, you can see that rotation. So, and then, so you can see we're now rotated the other way. It's just giving that whole point of adjustment. Then in addition to that, if I just spin this backrest round so you can actually see where we were doing the adjustments. Again, sorry guys, black on black, which, so it's just.
I'll let you come in a bit.
So you can see the nuts on either side here. Then your 10 mil adjustments.
Well,
so you got the 2 10 mil there. It's just going to give you that adjustment. These are all loose now, so you just having that adjustment so you can see. And then if you want height, you would undo these two, and then you've got your tracks where you're moving into, so you go higher or lower. If you get to the point on the backrest and the height is already at the highest point you can get to, but Alan, can you have some? Then you can always increase the height by doing the actual hardware itself as well. So depending on what type of our hardware, they're all 4 mil Allen key, but you might have a 4 point. So you've got 4 points of fixing. Just go back to that one.
anyway, sorry, wrong
Oh,
way.
right, yeah. So you've got 2 point at the top. So there's that, the standard SH, so standard hardware SH. Then you've got reduced hardware, which is that more compact for the lightweight backrests. And then you've got 4 point for those users that are thrashing that a little bit more, so you get that 4 points of strength. And then the one to the final, the tilt hardware, which is just going to give that bit more support for the tilt in space chairs. So all very, very different, but all working very similar ways. The point of release for the actual hardware, can't see, we can still, is you push these 2 buttons at the top, and then you're just lifting off. So you're easily to take it off. Just drop them into place. If you leave it loose, it's not going to fall anywhere. So you can adjust this with the client in the chair as well. So you can do it with the rep or on your own. It's entirely up to yourself. It's just giving you that little bit more support.
Zoom in on this.
Yeah, so that's a TH.
Okay. Sorry guys, I'm trying to zoom in here for you at the same time. All right. So, have you got the right. This is all Rob has been adjusting here and here. Okay, and as you can, you'd obviously do this on both sides with the backrest on the chair, but this is our depth, okay, and then our angle. All right, so just find that angle that you want, all right, and then do it back up. It would help if I did it the right way, okay? So super, super simple, all right? And as I said, doing this, changing, opening up that backrest angle by 5 degrees can make a huge difference for your client's posture and comfort, okay? So if you've accidentally measured that seat depth incorrectly, you know, you can bring this backrest forward and you can get that, that correct seat depth for your client, okay? So plenty of play just in the hardware here, okay?
Yeah, then you've got the additional one. I'll just move it in here. Then you've got your 4 point. So you've got your 4 points of fixing. Same principle. You've got your 2 nuts, 10 mils at the top, and then you've got the larger shifter at the bottom. And then you set that angle to where you want it to be, depending on where that bracket is.
Just on a side note, I think the 4 point hardware is really, really great option for your thrashers, for your sensory seeking clients, because it really is stronger and has a much higher weight capacity too. So really good food for thought. Do ask your rep as to different types of hardware which is available. All right. So these are all the bits in our spine align kit. We have different size wedges. I like to call these my bean bags. Okay, I love to use bean bags for shoulder positioning and trunk positioning too. And even on that PSIS, these are my footballs, these are my half moons. And of course, really you're limited by your imagination. Okay. Part of seating is headrest, okay? And I think as therapists, we get lots of calls with, can you come and fix my headrest? But ultimately, before you start playing around with headrests or, you know, a family member's been really loving and helped, you know, posture starts at the pelvis. So come back, make sure that client is seated exactly how you want them to sit. Their pelvis is in position, their trunk is in position, their lower legs are in position, their feet are supported. Then that's when you come to the headrest, okay? Because if you start at the head and work down to the pelvis, you're gonna have to come back and do the head anyway.
Yep.
Okay.
So with all of Sunrise's headrests, they are Whitmire range. With Whitmire, it's pretty much you are imperial. So you're already going to be looking at your imperial sizes. So it comes standard with the Whitmire kits. When you buy the kit, is your blue handle. So you want to be at 316 those ones. So we'll go for a few different options for you. We'll start with you've got your Cobra hardware. So it's just going to give you adjustment wise, you've got 2 Allen keys at the top here. Again, 1/4 of a turn to 1/2 a turn on each section. Just makes it loose enough so you can do those adjustments without the whole headrest falling apart. But don't worry if it does fall apart. You've just got to take it, support the head, and then just put it all back together. So nice and easy.
Simple, just like that.
So you've got those forward and backwards adjustments on these ones. You've got rotation, and then you've got pad rotation as well. So just the Allen keys in the top there, and then you've got rotation of the pad as well. So you can pretty much, this is standard across all the options, just depends on what type of hardware. So you've got that little bit more curved here. So if you've got that attendant walking behind, whereas with these ones, if you went for the axis, they have the option that sometimes if you're not sure where the headrest wants to be, it's going to give you lots of growth, but it's also going to be that point of contact that could be in the chest if you're walking behind, or you're going in the pediatric market and they're that little bit at eye level. It's just to be aware of, it becomes a sharp object. So just to be aware. So we'll show you why this is important as well. So I'll show you from a top view. So if you can imagine this headrest is mounted there, it's going to give you rotation. You're going to be able to that full rotation, so you can get full pivot and swing on where you want it to be. So you can really offset that to be mounted in a totally different position. So
I really like the access mount. Had a lot of success with, you know, people who've got really high tone in their neck and head, and it's always going off to one side no matter what time of day it is. And the access mount's really strong as well. So for people who do have those tonal concerns, this might be a consideration, but as Rob said, just be aware you are going to have that bar out the back.
Yeah, so you have your 3 bolts at the beginning, at the top there, that's your main spiral. So you see those, just loosen 2 of them and that'll just give you your play that you need, and then tension on the friction part, and then nice and secure to get you in the position you want to. Then fairly new ones, we've got the Lynx hardware of this one. So we've got that adjustment with the nice curved bars. This has got a lot of more adjustment. So every pad where it connects to the headrest hardware has 2 Allen key bolts in the top. They're your adjustments on that actual one. So you're able to have that little bit more adjustment, so you can do that pivot and position in the way you want it to be. So everyone does that. This is for those that have used Sunrise before. Obviously, the Lynx is one of probably our strongest headrests we use in the market. Now we have Lynx 2, so it just gives that. So when there's scenarios when you've got the really deep backrests like your Specs or your Dreamline, where you really need that positioning to go over the top, just got additional links that you're going to be able to go to get even further over it to get a really good position for where you want it to be, or in different rotation wherever's required. So it's a lot more adjustment.
Alternatively, you can come really far back.
Yeah, so you pretty much got flexibility on where you want it to go. In addition to this, you've got the pads that we've talked about. This particular one is one called Adjuster Plush. Then you've got Allen key adjustment in the top.
No, never worry if you hear that kind of crack. Okay, it's just all the bolts releasing.
And then you've got that adjustment, so you can really set that to whatever angle you require, open it up completely or close it as well.
And what I like about these adjustments on the Adjuster Plush is that then they're also behind the cover as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so similar to backrest.
If parents don't, if you want, like especially for siblings or carers that like to help a little bit too much, if they don't see it, you just keep it nice and hidden out of the way.
Yeah.
What have we got next?
So I think with your really complex headrest, and this is something as a therapist that you are going to have to go out and change, because if you're scripting something like this headrest, these bits come down under and support in the suboccipital plane. The headrest is something that you're going to go back and you're going to probably tweak 2 or 3 times until it's in that ideal position. Okay, so personally, I find getting it almost to the point you need by adjusting the headrest mount, okay, the angles, and then using the ball socket here to really get as close as possible. So tighten all those off, not 100%, probably to about 95%. And then that's afterwards where you tweak your position with the suboccipital pads, okay, and the plush kind of more supportive pads. So these headrests, I'm holding 3 pads already and the headrest mount. So really think about which bits you need to adjust first, because trust me, I've done it. You adjust everything and then it collapses and you have a carer talking to you or a parent talking to you, or whoever else in the room and the person in the wheelchair, and you're trying to get it right, okay? So quarter of a turn, think about what you're adjusting first, one thing at a time.
And if you've got users in the chair or multiple are going in different times, different carers put them in different positions, you can order these headrests, these ones particularly for myself, but other manufacturers as well, where you can put the handwheel. So the handwheel from the actual, when you take the headrest on and off, you can actually have the handwheels put onto these joints as well. So they can physically adjust it and move it themselves. So sometimes it's nice to lock it into one fixed position, but then other times where you want that actual adjustment, because you trust the carers that are there with them, and they know their head position and they want to change it that little bit more, you can order those parts as well. They are additional. They're on some parts for ourselves and other manufacturers. You just obviously contact them direct.
Before you go to these really complex headrests, please try these first.
Yeah, less is more.
Less is more. All right. And then just like any other part of seating, really make sure you're getting the correct positioning, okay? You don't want to be too high, you don't want to be too low, you don't want to be, getting them in the temple or the eye or on the jaw, okay? So really think about which headrest you're using, okay? Our most common one would be our plush, okay? Because it's exactly that, it's nice and plush, it's nice and comfy, okay? And it provides just enough support to comfortably support. You don't want to be too high up and forcing their head back. You want to be just coming in under that occipital area, okay? Or if you're going for more of our positioning headrest, okay, if you're using this contour cradle or the heads up, this is where you're really coming in from a sub-occipital position. Okay, so this is where when you do your mat assessment, think about where is your hand cupping, okay? Are you working on tone or is it just general support? What's the goal of the headrest? Okay, if the plush is almost right, we'll consider the adjuster plush, okay? That's going to give you more of that lateral support.
Start with the basics
simple.
and then go along. Try the basic one first, and in the point of trial, you'll be able to get an instant reaction to whether it's going to work or not work, and then progress on from there.
Definitely. Okay. So I know some of you might be thinking, oh, well, I'd never put it there, but you know, the more complex the headrest, quite often, you know, it can
may
go
be with
wrong.
rotation and that they
Correct.
get, they ends up in their eye and things like that. So just
Okay.
to be aware, just
Yeah, so of course avoid the eye because they need to see and communicate. Temporal because it's really soft there. Ear, okay, and mandible as well. We don't want to have a negative impact on swallowing, breathing, vision, and those sort of things. So if it doesn't seem right, you know, go with your clinical justification and what I call your clinical gut instinct. If it's not right, grab your Allen key out and have a play, okay? If you're really not sure, what you can do is these two bolts here at the top that we loosen to get that rotation. This is the one I'd say, if you take it all the way out, go for it. It's very, very easy to put back in because then that will take your headrest off the mount, all right? And then you can really use that as an assessment tool to work out exactly, without all the moving bolts, where you need it to be. Okay, so this comes off really easily and then just takes probably 30 seconds for you to screw it back together. All right, so give it a go, take it apart. Whitmire is super, super strong and forgiving, I think, especially to clinicians. Okay. Now that is how to make adjustments to seating in approximately probably half an hour or so. You guys got any questions specifically related to headrest adjustments, cushion adjustments, backrest adjustments? Tom is eagerly awaiting. This is where I wish I could virtually throw you all chocolate frogs or that sort of thing. Thumbs up. Do you want to send through thumbs up? Does it make sense? Do you all feel like you could give making an angle adjustment to a backrest a go? Yeah? All right. Do think about asking some questions. All right. All right. Give us one moment as we rearrange the room for the next section.
Taylor, answer question.
Any particular adjustments you'd avoid when it comes to seating?
Any particular adjustments I'd avoid for seating? First of all, don't make adjustments at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. No would be the answer to that. use your clinical justification. Why are you making an adjustment first? And if you know whether, using the J hardware that we've used or someone else's, if you're confident where that is, give it a go.
Probably one thing I'd say in the experience that's happened to me is don't try too much in one go.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna try and if they can get into near straight position, but they've been in a really bad position for so long, their body's really used to that. So just little and often, that saying is do a little bit at a time. Find out, certainly on the mat eval, you can say, yeah, they can get that position that I want to get into, and I can correct all that. But if they've been like it for 5-10 years, then their body's going to be used to that. And it's going to be the same as like when you first go back to the gym after a while and the next day you're in so much pain, you're doing the right thing, but it's that you've got to be aware of what you can do. So that little bit and an occasional adjustment. So it may be over a 4 or 5 week process that you do a week here, then the next week you go back and do a repeat visit and just add. So it may be that you start off with the obliquities, you do 1 inch first, but they need 2 inches. So you do 1 inch at the beginning, or to start them off with a new cushion, add the obliquity and then add progression, that little bit.
Yep. Hopefully that's answered your question. All right.
Are there any useful apps for measurement?
Useful apps for measurement?
The only one that we tend to use a lot is, well, I use a lot is the iPhone, because obviously I use iPhone a lot, but is the actual measure app. So you've got the spirit level that's built into your phone, so you can get it so it goes green. So you actually, when you're changing that position, I can walk forward, much easier. So if you're literally on that, and that comes standard with the iPhone. So, I mean, Androids have the apps you can do as well. So when you get it truly square, it goes green to say you've got that. So you can measure their angle depending on, so obviously that would be 100 degrees. And then, so you've got to think of where they are at 90 and then work from wherever they are. They do a measure one on it. It is accurate, but I'm a tape measure person.
Yeah. A really good stiff tape measure. Okay.
Obviously, depending if it's children.
Or just
the calipers work really well.
Yep.
It depends on how much space and what you're carrying around. If you're in a clinic environment, then win-win. You can have calipers and that works. But if not,
Most want to read it.
She's got a couple more questions coming through. Thank you for asking them. So yeah, in your tool bag, I'd have a stiff tape measure, okay?
Yeah,
and
with
also a softer one to use for kiddos who, if they're grabbing for things and that sort of thing, or if you're measuring circumference. Otherwise, you always want to be measuring straight and true, not around.
With the fusion, the question about the fusion overfill. So you can do the fusion overfill on the left or right, or depends. You can actually pick which section you want as well. So we'll get the contact details and we'll send some more information on dialing down on the actual fusion scripting itself, because now with fusion we've got obviously cryo fluid as well in there, so it then becomes 5 chambers. So, but essentially, we almost do the 10% overfill is 1 finger, 20% is 2 fingers, 30% 3 fingers, and just to give you that idea of where it wants to be. So.
Great. We might move on. Keep those questions coming. And if you think of a question throughout,